Hey, it's pal Nick Carter from Times Square in New York City. This is On Tap. Nick Carter here. We've been trying to lasso this man for years, get him into the Rock Lounge. He is the Leopard King. He can do anything. Joe Elliott.
Hello. Wow, what an intro.
That's the way we do it, my friend.
Yeah, I love that.
So I was just saying, we met a few months ago in Los Angeles for the Classic Rock Awards.
Apparently.
We were...
I'd had a few drinks. I don't remember much.
I remember you had.
Apparently, I got him to do a song with Brian May as well.
Well, here's the thing. we were in Greg Allman's hotel suite waiting to interview him, and so we're like in the bathroom. My producer Pam says, "Look, there's Joe Elliott. He's having lunch." And I'm like, "Yeah, he's a human being. He eats." You were having lunch with Brian May.
I was at the Sunset Marquee.
I have to figure that Queen was an enormous influence on you.
Yeah, when we were growing up as kids, they were the kind of blueprint of the band that we wanted to be, really. They had the mixture of muscle and melody. They had humour. They had vaudeville. They had rock. They had everything, you know. They were just fantastic four-piece band. And, you know, come 1983, we were playing the LA Forum, and Brian May was in town, and we got this message: Brian May wants to get up and play with you. We're like, holy crap, you know, which was amazing. And lo and behold, he came down to sound check, and he brought his guitar, that thing he made out of a fireplace, and his own amps. And we're sat at the mixing desk watching him, thinking, 10 years ago we were buying their albums. Now he's playing the riff for Photograph. It's like, whoa, this is crazy. So yeah, they were a huge influence on us.
So before we get to your day job, you've just done a third album with Down and Outs.
No, it's two. Only two. No.
Oh, I thought you were on the third now.
Well, we've written a third album.
Okay.
We've half written a third album, but it's not recorded. We just toured the UK in December on the second album.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, you've played some gigs. It seems like you wanted sort of a less polished thing.
Yeah, we're just different. When the Down and Outs got together, it wasn't with the intentions of becoming a band. I was asked by Mott the Hoople when they reformed in 2009 to be involved in the shows, because I'd been flying the flag for 30 years, and they all found out about it over the years, and I became good friends with Ian Hunter. And Trudy, Ian's wife, phoned me up about 6 months before these shows, and she said, they want you involved in the shows as a kind of a thanks for keeping the flame alive. And I said, okay, so they probably want me to just introduce them on stage. She says, no, they want you to open for them on the last night. Oh, okay. So how do I do this? Leopard can't do it. It's inappropriate, you know. So they loaned, the promoter also looked after the choir boys. And the choir boys volunteered themselves up to be my band, if you like. So I cherry-picked 10 classic songs that they all did after Mott split up. Solo Ian Hunter stuff. The band carried on under the name Mott. Then they morphed into a band called British Lions. And I picked like the 10 best live songs to play on stage, I thought, you know, but kind of up-tempo rockers. And that was it. We were just going to do this one-off performance of 45 minutes and then go our separate ways. Only when we went to the foyer for in the intermission for a drink, all the kids that had gone to the bar kind of pinned us against the wall and said, well, you better make a record of that lot, because that, you know, we never thought we'd ever hear those songs again on stage. Are you going to record them? It never occurred to me to do that, you know. So I said to the guys, do you want to do it while they're fresh? You know, I still remember how they go. And they said, absolutely. So that's how the Down and Outs. We didn't even have a name for the band until 48 hours before the performance, because we didn't need one. There wasn't really a band. It was just me and a bunch of guys doing these songs. So then we thought, okay, we have an album now. And that was My Regeneration, which came out 5 years ago. And then the second album came out last year. It took us that long to put it together because their day job and my day job kind of gets in the way.
Yeah.
Occasionally, you know.
Yeah.
But we are going to do a third album, and we have written the third album.
Okay. You mentioned
in the style of.
Right.
So, like, you know, as I was saying, what's the point of being in two Def Leppards? They have to be chalk and cheese for me to want to do it. So it's much more piano-driven rock and roll in a traditional sense over what Leopard do.
I want to get to your day job. How did you form Wham? No, just kidding. No, this is funny. You just did that metal show. We just talked about that. Last year, I spoke with Viv, Rick, and Phil, and I asked them, I was like, do you guys consider yourselves a metal band, did you? And Phil's answer stunned me in its candor, and I just want to bounce this off you. He says, not even slightly. He said, I can't believe someone would compare us to, Metallica's a metal band. We don't sound anything like that. We sound more like Duran Duran, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
But we've always said that we were a cross between Queen and AC/DC, and we were somewhere in between that. I thought that was so candid and so honest. Are you on that page? Or
Absolutely.
Is he out of the band now?
No. I totally agree with him. I'll never forget when we first started to break in '83. We went back to the UK after we'd finished this huge American tour where we'd ended at Jack Murphy Stadium in front of like 55,000 people. And we went back to the UK to do 3 shows. And there was this kind of acceptance by the very cynical UK press at the time of us being, okay, hands up, they're a good band.
Yeah, they slagged you pretty hard when you first came
and they
along.
were calling,
Do you know why?
they were saying, and there's Phil Duran and Steve Duran because of the way we dressed, because we weren't wearing denim and leather, we were wearing white and polka dots and stuff like this, and we always used that as a reference point. It was that review that called Phil and Steve Duran as their surnames because of the fact that we looked different. We didn't want to go down that route of looking like, Iron Maiden have got it nailed, Metallica have got it nailed, it's jeans and leather jackets. We don't do that all day long every day. We never did, we never wanted to. We looked at bands like Queen, we grew up on bands like T-Rex and Slade and Bowie who really went out of their way to spend as much effort on what they looked like as to what they sounded like. We were never that bothered about what we looked like, but we were bothered enough to not just follow the herd, if you like. So that's why I completely agree with him that calling us a heavy metal band, we're not dissing metal when we say we're not metal. We're not a reggae band either, and I'm not dissing reggae. But my point is, get Scott Ian, get Glenn Tipton from Judas Priest, and get Lemmy in a room and say to them, Def Leppard, heavy metal, discuss. They're all going to burst out laughing and going, of course they're not. They'll all say they're a good hard rock band. The same way that UFO and Thin Lizzy and Montrose were.
Right.
I don't believe they were heavy metal. I don't think Van Halen were heavy metal. Metallica maybe, Anthrax maybe, even Motorhead were based in blues. We've got the same essential lineup as the Rolling Stones: drums, bass, 2 guitars, and a singer. I wouldn't call them heavy metal either.
Right. It's amazing to me how this business has changed. I mean, the Sparkle Lounge was like the last album. That's like, what, 2008?
Yes, 7 years ago.
So you've just pushed back your new album due to, you're busy with the tour, which we'll talk about, and there's stuff going on with the labels. Is it strange? It's strange to me that you think about when you guys came along, you guys would just break your necks to get a new album out. Now it's almost like...
Yeah, but there's a good reason for that. We were 21 years old. We weren't married. We didn't have kids. We didn't have houses. We lived in the back of a van. Of course, we wanted to get straight back in the studio. They had food and heating. Times change. The world is not queuing up round the block for a new Elton John, a new Rolling Stones, a new Def Leppard, a new Iron Maiden album. If they put an album out every 5 years, it's an event, and that's what it's all about these days. We haven't done an album since 2008, that's true, but in 2009 we toured and we recorded some live stuff which came out in 2011 with Mirrorball, had 3 brand new songs on it, and then we toured, and then we did the Viva Hysteria thing and put that out as well. So it's not like we haven't been putting stuff out, it's just been live versions of. We have been putting the work in, and we've certainly been writing, we just haven't got around to doing the record because the touring has become more important than the records.
I remember you said you had initially were working on an EP because you didn't think people cared about albums anymore.
This is the way that the music industry's gone. You used to be able to set your watch to the way that it worked in 1972 to 1982. Then it all started to change, probably with MTV, I have no idea. But people's opinions and the way that the music industry was going was starting to change. It was okay to be in your 40s. Now it's okay to be in your 70s. I saw this headline the other day, is rock and roll dead? No, but it's just very old. And I thought, well, that's fair enough. At least it's still around, And it's like your grandparents. You don't want them dead either. I want McCartney to do it until he can't.
Right.
Same with the Stones. It'd be great if some new bands come along to bolster up the amount of us that's going to be still around in 10 years' time. It's a bit thin on the ground underneath us, But the whole thing about the music industry, what you say, this is why you've got to be very careful, especially with social media. You say something on the 1st of February, it's out of date on the 20th. So last year we said, yeah, let's do an EP. Why? Because everybody's doing EPs. Everybody's telling us that the album's dead. Maybe the album is dead. We've got the energy to do 3 tracks. Let's go and do 3 tracks. So we all turned up at my studio in Dublin last February. Okay, let's hear everybody's ideas. They were so good, we couldn't weed it down to 3. It's like we came out of that month session with 12 songs. Like, whoa, I think we've got an album. Okay. So then we readdressed our theory on what we were doing, because we were happy enough to go with an EP, which is essentially what the 3 tracks were on the end of Mirrorball. We did Undefeated, right. Kings of the World, and It's All About Believing. There were 3, I still believe, 3 of the best songs we've ever written, because we didn't rush them. And we just put them on the end of the live album, and there you go, we can still do it. That probably gave us the confidence to keep going with new music, because we weren't sure if anybody cared,
Was there, I'm sorry, was there any truth to there was a story that you guys had explored the idea of Skrillex producing you, or was that just like internet hokum?
Phil had mentioned, Phil's a huge Skrillex fan,
okay.
And he'd kind of said, like, maybe we should get him to do a remix on one of our songs, and, I don't think he got much kind of change out of the rest of us, to be quite honest. I think Phil's more interested in trying to get a 16-year-old kid to like Def Leppard than I am. I think if a 16-year-old kid likes us, he likes us, but I don't want to ram it down his throat by having to wade into his world to kind of, oh, aren't we wonderful? It's like, I don't believe, that us and Skrillex had actually really worked together very well myself, but that's just my opinion. We didn't fall out about it; it just didn't go anywhere.
I want to go back quickly. I was thinking about this. I remember, and I talked to Rick about this. I remember when you did the last residency and Dead Flatbird came up, and people. I remember they were saying that people didn't know it was you, and Rick actually said to me, "He's like, they're really amazing. They even have a one-armed drummer." Which I thought was so hilarious that the guy makes jokes like that. When his accident happened, I remember it was, please don't take this the wrong way, but it was almost a blessing in disguise in a way, in that I remember when I first started to hear the stuff, it seemed like you guys were so slick anyway, it really the sound really gelled. And I remember I remember the first time I heard Animal, I almost cried because I was like, these guys are unstoppable, and they stuck by him, and it's just the biggest sounding song ever.
He certainly became a better drummer after he lost his arm. I wouldn't wish it on anybody, and I wish he had his arm back, but with the mentality that he has of the one-arm drumming thing. But what he did, he simplified his drumming by virtue of the fact that he had no choice. And what that did was, because of the way our music was heading, it just happened to just totally slipstream into our way of thinking. So there's nothing worse than having a really good song where the drummer just keeps going diddle 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 over all the vocals because he has to get his licks in. Rick started to learn to play to the song, not to his abilities, if you like, because he was a phenomenal drummer, still is. And everybody hears him live, they know what he's capable of. But the way that he had to learn to play to simplify stuff started to fit in the way our songwriting was going. So I wouldn't necessarily say a blessing in disguise, but certainly a fluke of good fortune that it made him more comfortable in his role as a drummer, because it wasn't like, well, I can't keep up with the way they're going. We were going in that direction that suited his drumming, so it was a match made in heaven in that respect. Yeah, but I still wish he had both arms, right, just for the fact that he could lift his kid up and just do everything else that we all do. We take it for granted, lacing up our shoes. He can't wear lacy shoes.
Yeah, wow.
He has to wear zipped stuff or pull-ons. It's, the adjustments that he had to make, and he never whinged about it, was pretty phenomenal stuff. And it's another reason why we stuck by him. He's like, you don't kick your brother out your family if he loses an arm. So why, if he wasn't going to be in this band, it was his decision to tell us, not ours to tell him.
Right. One of the things that I always appreciated about Leppard, because I remember going to hard rock shows or heavy shows back in the day, and Leppard brought women to the party, which was great because, you'd be in a room with like 800 sweaty, pissed off guys. You're like, how is this fun? Before that happened.
I remember back in the 80s, Steve Harris from Iron Maiden came to one of our shows, and we dragged him up on stage to do we used to encore with Travelling Band by Creedence Clearwater Revival. And he took the bass and South played rhythm guitar, and we got Steve Harris to get up and play this song. And when we came off, he went, I've never seen so many women in my life. So you don't get them at Maiden gigs. He goes, no, we just get men. You know, we've always had women at our gigs, always have. You know, I think it's like that's another comparison to Duran Duran, probably.
Yeah.
That it's music that women find sexy, I suppose. You know,
And wrapping
with
up,
songs like "Pour Some Sugar on Me," they're not really going to attract big fat bald men, are they?
yeah. I wonder what you thought of the definitive version of "Pour Some Sugar on Me," the Tom Cruise cover of that.
Oh no, that's not the definitive version. You have to go online and look at the Hasty Dixie version where the
That's
guy's in the
phenomenal.
shower. That's the version to watch. Oh yeah.
All right, and wrapping up, you're going out on this gigantic tour with Styx and Tesla. I've seen you guys a couple of times, and it was always with bands like Warrant or Poison. When you choose...
Never toured with Warrant, but we did tour with Poison.
Okay, well, do you choose sort of like musical kindreds, or is it people you think are going to match sonically, or just how does that happen?
We just want the night to be an event. We've done it before where we've taken a band out to try and help them along, and there's 45 minutes of music and the audience sit there like this, which doesn't look very good on the radio, does it? Hunched shoulders and like pissed off expressions. Don't know this stuff. When we were out on Hysteria, we had Tesla. They were over 1 million albums when they were opening for us. We had we had LA Guns, over 1 million albums. We had Europe, over 3 million albums. Queensryche, over 2 million records. People knew their songs, and they were. Then we went out and did an evening with. Then we had a band nobody had ever heard of, and went, "This is not working. How can we readdress this?" So since then, we've had Poison, Cheap Trick, Foreigner, REO Speedwagon, Styx, Heart. I mean, we've had some phenomenal bands. So when people get in at 7:30 and they get in their seats and the lights go down and the curtains open and, I don't know, Tesla come out on Modern Day Cowboy or something like that, they're going to go, "Oh, yeah, I remember this." And it's 3 hours all the way till our last encore. They will know 90% of the music. And in an environment like a summer outdoor show in some of these amphitheatres that hold up to 20, 25,000 people, they are coming to celebrate what they know, not to be lectured at by 45 minutes of brand new music they've never heard.
Right.
Take that down to the Bowery or
Right.
to CBGB's or whatever's left. And then that's where you can educate people. They're not coming to be educated, they're coming to be entertained. And I go and see Kiss, I go and see McCartney, Elton John, the Stones. I want Jumping Jack Flash. I want Eleanor Rigby. I want all that stuff. And that's what they're going to get with these three bands. I mean, Tesla have got hits, Styx have got hits, and Leopard have got hits. It's going to be one hell of a night.
Wrapping it up with you, I remember back in it was in 1998, an Offspring sampled the Guten Lieben Glauten Globen
They
for
did.
Pretty Fly. Didn't they pay you like $20,000 or something like that for
Not
that?
quite that much, but they did pay us, and we didn't ask for it. They said, "We're going to give you this money." We went, "Okay, fine." And next thing we knew, it was number one in England. So it was the first thing he heard when they did the chart rundown. And number one this week is, and he heard us. It's like, this is really weird.
I'm sure you've got to be tired of telling that story, but where did that come from? I was obsessed with that as a kid.
It's just gobbledygook nonsense. It was Mutt Lange when we wrote Rock of Ages. We didn't have the lyrics, and because there's no vocals there's no guitars. It's just drums and a bass all the way through the verse. There's no cue for where the guitars come in because I hadn't written the lyrics yet. We hadn't written the lyrics yet. So to put pinpoints in the song so that the guitars could go, "Bah-nah," Mutt went out and he timed it and he just did these counts. And by the time we did it the third or fourth time, he was just starting to make up nonsense, and that was one of them. It was in the middle of the song, and it used to make us laugh so much that we said, we got to keep that. So we snipped it and stuck it on the front of the song.
I can't thank
True
you
story.
enough. I can't thank you enough.
Once translated by a German, apparently, into running naked through the forest silently.
And on that note, you're a good man, brother.
Thank you.
Joe Elliott.